Welcome to the In Love with PMDD podcast. I am your host, Dr. Rose, your PMDD relationship psychotraumatologist, and I help you stop the monthly PMDD breakups. PMDD is premenstrual dysphoric disorder. It is in approximately 1 in 5 women, and it makes you want to break up with your partner approximately 1 to 2 weeks before your period every single month. So as someone who has suffered with PMDD for over 18 years, I dedicated my doctorate practice to helping partners navigate those monthly PMDD breakups with everything from attachment styles, triggers, sensitivity to noise, sensitivity to touch, all of the things that you really struggle with when you're in PMDD. And I also dedicated my dissertation to a phenomenological study of the relationship experiences of partners of individuals who suffer with premenstrual dysphoric disorder. So I'm not just here to help the sufferer, the one who is suffering with PMDD. I am here for the partners as well. So if you need those private sessions, make sure you go to inlovewithpmdd.com and get those tools. So let's get into this week's PMDD trauma transformational tools that is going to help you stop the monthly breakups and stop the suffering and stress in your PMDD relationship. Let's get into it. Today, we are going to be talking about a very important topic that I have been wanting to discuss with you to give you the tools on when it comes to your PMDD relationship, and that is the words that you speak. So what I mean by that is the words that you speak to your PMDD partner, the words that you're saying out loud to yourself, the words that you're speaking to friends and family when you're talking about your relationship. A lot of times we get into these modes where we're saying a lot of negative things because we're suffering in PMDD and specifically about our relationships, and we're not understanding how that really impacts our relationship as a whole. I remember earlier in my journey, I was literally admittingly on this realm of toxic positivity where I was like, everything's great, everything's great, everything's fine. And I was in this place of denying the suffering that I was experiencing in PMDD. I almost just really got emotional and started crying when I said that and when I admitted that just now, because I remembered that there were days where I was suffering immensely and I didn't let anybody in and I didn't speak about the suffering that I was going through. And I literally made everyone around me feel as if I wasn't suffering. And what happens when you do that, specifically with your partner, where you don't communicate to them the level of suffering that you're going through, they begin to think you got it. Right. And that's been the trajectory of a lot of my relationships where I haven't gotten a lot of care and I haven't gotten a lot of support because whenever they think of me, they think, oh, she's got it. Right. Like at the end of the podcast, every episode, I'm like, you got this. Like I'm empowering you with that confidence of whatever it is that you're going through in PMDD, you got this, because that's what I have to tell myself every single day when I'm suffering in PMDD. And there's a lot of self-talk that I'm doing. I'm talking myself, I'm saying like, looking in the mirror or thinking to myself, like, Rose, you got this, you got this. Don't quit. Don't give up. Don't lean into, oh, my relationship is going to fail and it's doomed and it's completely over. When I was fighting for my PMDD relationship, I did this excessively, almost to the point where I was ignoring reality. And that's why I say it's toxic positivity, because I was just making things seem like they were okay that weren't really okay, right? I was just like, I can deal with this. I can do, when I knew in reality, there were so many, I don't even want to say red flags, so many neon flags and so many signs that were telling me, this is not the path that you're supposed to be going on, but I was forcing and pushing. And what I want to tell you is I could literally cognitively feel different in my body, in my mind, based off of the words that I was saying to myself. And I understood the power in that. One of my favorite scriptures is in James, and it's like life and death is in the power of the tongue. And so I remember telling that to my partner because he my ex-partner really was like big on venting. Like, those individuals that they're gonna do something, right? But they need to complain about it first. And I've been there, some like my daughter's like that. I have, a couple of employees that are like that. Like in my mind, if you're complaining to the extent of like you're complaining, I'm thinking, oh, you're not gonna do it. It's not gonna happen. And they're like, no, 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 I'm still gonna do it. I just need to complain about it first. So that didn't make sense to me because I was always taught and I always believed life and death is in the power of the tongue. And what that means is what you say about a situation is literally cognitively going to control your thoughts, your emotions, and your behaviors about it. And I think that's not, a lot of people don't recognize that. And I wanted to teach this tool to you because I share it with my private clients all the time. I let them know I understand that a lot of individuals with PMDD, they go on these Facebook forums and Reddit, which yeah, Reddit's another one, and they're just complaining all day long. I feel horrible. I feel like this. They're just talking about their symptoms. And so I remember going in there by the recommendation of a couple clients, like, hey, like you need to see, what we're really going through. And obviously I know what you're going through because I'm feeling it, I'm experiencing it. And it was pretty much like I remember being in PMDD and being able to handle it to a certain extent, and then getting into my follicular days and completely avoiding the forums because I'm like, I don't want to hear and see all of this negativity about PMDD because then it's going to make me anxious about the fact that it's coming back. So it's going to give me a high level of anticipation of suffering, right? So if you're in your good days, if you're in your follicular days and you're on these forums that are talking about how horrible PMDD is, you're going to be like, oh my gosh, I can't really enjoy my good days because I'm so worried about what's going to happen in a couple days when I go into PMDD. So I found myself intermittently going on the forums. Like when I was in PMDD, I was like, oh, I can relate. Yeah, you're suffering, I'm suffering too. And then when I got in my follicular days, I would be like avoiding it like the plague, almost like pretending like I didn't have PMDD, like, oh my gosh, you're suffering. Like, I don't know what that's like. Like I'm in my good, I'm in my good place. And that's why I did the cover art. If you see the cover art on the podcast has changed to where when I'm in my follicular days, my personality is 100% good vibes only, good vibrations, just all about feeling good, me feeling good mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, and me doing everything on a day-to-day basis that contributes to that, and then me pouring into other people in that way. With my daughter and with my clients, it's my follicular days, I have an abundance of good vibes only. Like I feel like everybody should have a motto, by the way, separate episode, but everyone should have a motto for their life in their luteal phase and their follicular phase. And I do this a lot with my private clients. We have a session where we're creating a mantra that is for our life. So you have like a moral compass that you can kind of like, if anything happens, you go back to, okay, this is who I am. Because PMDD has a way of pulling you out of who you really are and taking you down the rabbit hole of this evilness, this bitterness, this resentment, this all of these negative characteristics that are not true to who you are. Because what I want to let you know, what I found in my research, PMDD is 1 in 20 approximately, but it literally impacts the best of individuals, the most kind-hearted, selfless, caring, nurturing, loving individuals. This disorder, I've never had a private client where I've been like, well, not that I would ever say this, but I've never been like, well, you've done a lot of stuff in your life. You don't really like, you kind of deserve having, this evilness. You know what I mean? Like I always see like, wow, this is such a good person. This is such a pure person when they're in their follicular days and they're so kind and nice and giving and compassionate and wanting to give back and wanting to help others. And then they have PMDD. And that's when I recognize PMDD literally attacks the best of us. So if you're impacted by PMDD, if you have PMDD, I don't want you to feel less about yourself. I want you to feel like I'm one of the ones like that were, quote unquote, chosen for this, not just chosen because I can handle it, but chosen because I'm genuinely a good person. But a lot of times when we go into PMDD, we start to speak negatively about ourselves. And so I don't want you to feel like you're a bad person because you have PMDD. I remember feeling like this. And again, I feel like I'm about to cry because I remember crying out. And that's why my faith has been so important. As I've gone through the breakup over the years, as I've gone through PMDD and suffering and deep amount of suffering, I remember asking, God, like, why is this happening to me? Like, why me? I'm genuinely just trying to help people. I promise you, I don't have an ounce of bitterness, resentment, evilness, ego. Like, I don't have that in me. I have a mentor, and she always says, whatever's in you when you go through a tough situation, when you're stressing. And so I immediately leaned into PMDD. She says, when life happens, it squeezes you, and whatever comes out is what was in you. And I thought that was so powerful because what she was saying is whatever comes out of you, like a tube of toothpaste. So think of you and PMDD. Whatever's coming out of you was already inside of you. And I know that's very harsh to hear because PMDD is enveloped by a lot of evilness, right? We start to feel like we have this different persona, like PMDD is evil, all of this evil side of me. There's a root to what it is that you're having. Everyone doesn't have PMDD rage. Everyone doesn't have PMDD depression. Everyone doesn't have PMDD anxiety. We are all given different symptoms cognitively, emotionally, mentally for our suffering. Yay, us. But like, because I remember experiencing PMDD rage when I was with my ex, when I was triggered specifically that linked back to my childhood trauma. So I'm able to link when those symptoms come out. So if I'm with someone, like I talked about in previous episodes, that is intuitive and nurturing and kind to me, I don't experience PMDD rage. I just don't. But I will have depression. I will 100% have anxiety, the overthinking, the paranoia. I will have that. And I know where that stems from. And I'll talk about that in future episodes, but I have to be very cognizant, mindful of when you have these PMDD symptoms and you're speaking about yourself, when you start speaking negatively, like you're a bad person, like I'm being punished, it's because I did this. Like we can all look back, and I've done this plenty of times where I'm suffering in PMDD, and I've looked back on maybe bad decisions I've made in the past. I'm like, oh, this is why I have PMDD. If I wouldn't have done this, I would have never had PMDD. The truth of the matter is, we don't have PMDD because of things that we've done or not done. I don't want you to cause yourself to suffer because you're thinking that I did something wrong in my life. And this is why I have PMDD. I've had private clients where they've gotten abortions in the past. And now because they've gotten an abortion in the past, they think, oh, I developed PMDD because I had an abortion. Or they've been in abusive relationships and they're like, oh, because I've been in abusive relationships and I stayed, I have PMDD. Oh, I had a miscarriage and now I have PMDD. When you get into that mode of speaking negatively about yourself and feeling like you're being punished for having PMDD, then you start to experience your symptoms differently. And that's why I wanted to share this with you, because I don't really think you understand the power of the words that you speak, not the power of the words that you think, right? That's what I always tell my private clients. You can think, we all have negative thoughts. We all have, I don't care if you're the most pure-hearted person, if you're a good person, when you're in your follicular days, when you're in your luteal phase, I don't care what time of the month it is, you will have negative thoughts. It is what you do with those thoughts that are going to decide whether you suffer because of them or not. I'm going to repeat that because I feel like that really needs to sink in for a lot of you. I'm really feeling that. You are going to have negative thoughts. You are not a bad person because you have negative thoughts. I don't care if you're looking at your partner and you're internally judging them. I don't care if you're looking at your partner and you're internally disgusted with them. I don't care if you're looking at your partner and you're internally dissatisfied with them. I don't care if you're looking at your partner and you're internally feeling like you want to break up. Nothing happens until you speak it. That is the power. That is the power of your words when you're in PMDD. You can have all of the negative thoughts and they not be activated until you speak it out loud. Your words that you speak activate the negative thoughts that are being stored in your brain cognitively. Whatever it is that you speak, you seek, now you're looking for it, and then cognitively it becomes a belief system. So these negative thought patterns that you have into your mind when you're in PMDD, they may be criticism about your PMDD partner. They may be criticism about your relationship. It may be criticism about you. I'm not good enough, my partner deserves better. Maybe they should be with someone else, or, maybe my partner's thinking about someone else, or I know what horrible things I've said and done in PMDD. And if that was me, I wouldn't stay with me. Maybe I just should be single so that I don't continue to do damage to other people. You start ruminating on past failures and things that you've done in your PMDD relationship. You're thinking back to words that you've said that were below the belt and things that you've done that you would have never done if you weren't in PMDD. And then you start to anticipate more things that you're going to do when you're in PMDD that are damaging to your relationship. And this is when you get into the PMDD monthly breakups, because you feel like, because you've done so many negative things to your PMDD partner, because you've said so many negative things, or maybe it's just that you've just had a lot of negativity within your PMDD relationship on both sides, right? Because what you do, your partner responds to. So if you're the partner that doesn't have PMDD, you may be thinking, I didn't handle that situation right. I should have been more understanding. I should have been more intuitive. I should have been more supportive. And so you're ruminating on all of the things that you should have done in all those scenarios. And then you're assuming that in the future, you're going to continue to do this and you're going to continue to cause problems in your PMDD relationship. So that's where you feel like you need to break up, because you feel like there's so much damage that's been done. Am I wasting my time? Am I doing this all for nothing? Are we obviously always going to be in this dance every single month of, I'm doing damage, I'm apologizing. I'm doing damage, I'm apologizing. I'm doing, like, none of it feels good. It doesn't feel good to do damage, and it doesn't feel good to apologize, because you know that that's not what your partner deserves. And so it's not that they don't deserve an apology, but you beat yourself up while you're apologizing. Like, man, like I did it again. Like Britney Spears, oops, I did it again. Oops, went below the belt and said and did things that I wasn't supposed to do, because it's not reflective of how I really feel about my partner. I said it out of frustration. I said it out of stress. I said it out of PMDD rage. And so a lot of times, the next thing that I'm going to talk to you about that has to do with your negative self-talk when you're in PMDD or your partner's in PMDD is there are a lot of cognitive distortions. Let me give you a listing of what that looks like, right? The first is black and white thinking. Black and white thinking means it's the all or nothing. Either we're going to make it or we're going to break up. Either we're arguing or we're loving each other. It's the black and white, the yin and the yang. I used to wear a necklace like this all the time because I strongly believed in the yin and the yang. I strongly believe in the balance of everything. As good as something can be, it can be equally as bad. Because I always want to be mindful of, don't get comfortable in that zone of when everything's going great, that there's never going to be a flip side of it, or everything's going horrible, there's never going to be the flip side of it. Whatever you're experiencing, there's a balance to it. But when you're having that negative self-talk and those negative thinking patterns that turn into words, right? Remember, we can think negative, but when it turns into words, you start saying to yourself, well, maybe we should just break up then. If this is not working, if you're not happy, like your partner may come to you and say, I'm not happy, babe, in the relationship because of this, and this, and this, and this. Well, then we should break up then, right? You go from 0 to 100 instead of trying to come to a solution, listen to what they're saying. You're like, if you're expressing any level of discomfort towards me, any level of dissatisfaction, you're almost like feeding into what I'm already thinking negatively about the relationship. So we should just break up. Black and white thinking. There's no solution. There's no levels to this. It's kind of either we're together or we're not. And the next thing is the catastrophizing, meaning you're thinking worst case scenario. You have an argument. You have a disagreement with your partner, which happens. I'm just going to like pause and sit with that. You are going to disagree with your PMDD partner. That does not mean that you're not supposed to be with your PMDD partner. An argument does not constitute incompatibility. It means that you're human. We see things through the lens of our experiences. We see things through the lens of what we've been through. And so we get into these modes of feeling like, oh my goodness, if my partner is bringing up something that they're not satisfied with, it means that we should just break up. It means we shouldn't be together. It means we're not compatible. You're creating a scenario based off an emotion that your partner is feeling, based off of a thought that your partner is feeling. And all of that happens cognitively through the words that you speak. So remember, when you speak the negative words, your brain goes into catastrophizing, meaning your partner may speak the negative words. This happened to me before. It was the most horrible scenario you could think of. And it was with my ex, and we went out on a dinner date at this very, really nice, classy restaurant, one that I had never been to. I mean, it was amazing. And I thought it was a date night. So I'm like getting dressed up. I'm going on this date night. And I'm feeling like we're about to sit down, and it's a very nice atmosphere. And we ended up sitting outside. So we walk through the restaurant. We sit outside at this private table. We're drinking champagne. We get the menu and it has like my favorite things on it. And then as soon as the meal comes, my ex-partner decides to communicate to me all of the negative things and feelings and thoughts and emotions that he has about the relationship. And I think I was caught so off guard that I was like, wait, what? And it was like, yeah, he literally took me on this date and then described to me how dissatisfied he was with the relationship because his needs weren't getting met in these particular ways. And I was at that point, doing the best that I could. I'm never a person in a relationship where I'm given the bare minimum. So this is probably why the hurtful words or the criticism or anything like that hurts so much, because I give so much effort. Like if I wasn't trying and my partner came to me and was like, hey, like, I don't like the way you do, like, I'd probably be like, well, that makes sense. Like, I'm not really trying. So of course you're dissatisfied. But when you're a person that is very intentional, that is very caring and considerate and trying to make sure that you're giving your PMDD partner what it is they need, and then they proceed to like give you negative talk, like by complaining, I immediately went into that catastrophizing, because I've always had the mentality that if I'm doing my best, and I think this is a lot of what led to the breakup with my ex PMDD partner, if I am giving you everything I have to give, if I'm doing my best and you're still complaining to me about how I'm not good enough, how you need more, how you're squeezing the tube of toothpaste and you're folding it over and you're like, I know there's more in you. And I'm literally like, this is all I have to give. Like, I love you. I care about you. I think the world of you. I forgive you. Like all of the things, but I don't have any tricks up my sleeve. Like I'm literally doing my best and you're literally being like, this is horrible, blah, blah, blah. So I start catastrophizing, right? Because of the negative talk of my ex-PMDD partner, I started thinking worst case scenario, which was you're never going to be happy with me. Like I literally began to think that. I'm like, it doesn't matter what I do. I remember being in that moment saying to myself, it doesn't matter what I do for this person. They're always going to find something negative about me. They're always going to find a reason to be dissatisfied with my efforts. They're always going to tell me that I'm doing something wrong. And if I feel like that because of the negative words, I catastrophize and say, well, I'm not supposed to be in this relationship then. Right? It's that personalization. Like, if you have a problem in the relationship, I'm all for saying you have a problem. But the cognitive distortion comes when you start to personalize it. When you're like, I'm not just unhappy in this relationship. I'm unhappy with you because I'm starting to point out things that you're doing. Right. So these cognitive distortions that can happen from having a lot of negative self-talk can skew our perception of reality. And so it leads to this exaggerated or irrational interpretation of events, meaning I was at the relationship thinking that this is a breakup dinner, lunch. It was a lunch. It was like midday, perfect time of the day. I had just got off of a client call and I literally like squinted. And I was like, did you take me in public to break up with me? Like I couldn't rationalize in my mind how this had happened. We are going on a date day, like, dating during the day, which is very common for us. And I'm thinking we are going through a rough patch. We're going out to talk about things, and you proceed to dump on me all of the reasons why you're not happy in the relationship. And then like you're like cutting your steak while you're doing it. And I was looking for Ashton Kutcher, like, is this a joke? Like, am I being punked? Because when your partner starts to speak really negatively about you, about the relationship, you can start to get to the point where you feel like, well, if you're that dissatisfied, then what are we doing? So the next thing is that I really want you to pay attention to when it's like negative self-talk, when we're talking about the negative words that we speak, is it can reinforce an intentional bias towards negative stimuli. What this means is we're more likely to dwell on the negative because it's been spoken. So in this example, when my ex-PMDD partner was saying like, one of the things he said, like, that was just, I was floored. I was like, what? He was like, yeah, you're just not supportive. And I'm like, what? Because I had flown, I had drove, I had been there, I had taken off work, I had moved from my schedule, I had done all of these things to be supportive. And so when someone tells you, yeah, you're just not supportive to me, I started to dwell on that. Like I started to think, well, no matter what I do, um, my partner's not going to think that I'm being supportive. And I started looking for it. Like I started expecting that, you get into those modes where your partner starts complaining about something and you may get to this point where like, you're like, what's the point? Like, what's the point of going out of my way if I'm still going to be told that I'm doing nothing? Because the negative self-talk, or not negative self-talk, but the negative talk that was spoken to me was not just my needs aren't fulfilled, blah, blah, blah. It was like, you're not doing anything, basically. And I was like, I'm doing everything. Like, I don't, and granted, it may have been said out of emotional reactivity, which is my next tool that I'm going to teach you about, meaning your partner is going through a lot of feelings of anxiety, a lot of feelings of sadness, a lot of feelings of anger, a lot of feelings of frustration that have nothing to do with you, but they are saying things to you as if they're directed towards you, as if you're the reason that they're feeling that way. So the negative words that they're speaking, it intensifies these negative emotions, and what it does is it activates your body's stress response, and you get into that fight or flight mode. which I was living in for years. And there's a recovery process to that I like had to go through afterwards because I was constantly feeling like I was about to be criticized. I was about to be told I wasn't good enough. I was about to be told that I should do more. And my body was always on high alert, like, oh, you need to do this, you need to do this. Like I was literally waking up and like looking at my phone, like, are we fighting? Are we not fighting? Are we talking? Are we not talking? And it really impacted my overall emotional well-being. I never felt safe. I didn't feel safe. I always felt like I needed to do more because I was told, oh, you're amazing, you're you're this, and it was taken away from me within hours, days, with negative talk. So when your partner has the ability to speak negatively about you right after they've love bombed you, again, this is a narcissistic trait where they say you're amazing, they say you're the best thing, they say they love you so much and you've done all the things that they need for you to do. And then in the next situation, they say you're not doing anything. And they say you need to do more. So you're always in this push and pull. You're always in this up and down. You're always feeling like you're needing to climb this ladder. And when you're in PMDD and you're receiving these complaints, like your partner's like, I just need to tell you about what I need and what you're not doing. And you're just like, I I don't have any more to give. Like sir, ma'am, I'm giving you everything I have to give, and I really honestly don't have any more, and I'm depleted, and I'm needing support, and you're telling me that like it's not good enough because of your negative words. This is again what leads to the monthly breakups because your partner will just say, "Well, go find someone." How many times have you been there? Go find someone that can give you what it is that you need. I know I've said it. That is a firm belief of mine. Like if I feel like I have given you all I got, there's this song, I don't know if it's like Gladys Knight. I don't know. It's an old song that my parents used to play. And it said, giving you the best that I got, baby. It was like, giving you the best that I got, baby. And I literally feel like that because I will give you as my partner the best that I got. But when you spit on it, throw it back in my face, disregard it, gaslight me into thinking that I didn't do what I did, then I'm like, well, wait a minute. Like, wait a minute. Like, I I can't, it's hard for me to recover from that because now if you're telling me all of these negative things about me, when you go into talking positively about me, I don't believe you. Right. So this is when it can go into the next tool that I'm giving you is the impact on memory. When you receive negative words from your PMDD partner, it influences cognitively the memory encoding and retrieval processes. So, what this means is negative words that are spoken by your PMDD partner and experiences, they're easily remembered and recalled. So, I am easily thinking when I go into PMDD, you know how we have those brain fogs? Well, I'm remembering that you called me a piece of crap. I'm remembering that you told me I wasn't supportive, right? So now I have this bias of remembering negative events in the past because instead of me thinking back to, like, if we're going through a really hard time and I'm thinking back to all of the great things, I have this bias of now, because of the negative words that you've spoken to me, I am now perceiving our relationship as negative. I am now perceiving that you think I'm a piece of crap. I'm now perceiving that whatever you said to me in that moment of anger, anxiety, stress, overwhelm, that's what you really think about me. So all of the beautiful memories are replaced by negative memories because of the words that you've spoken. So the next tool that I'm going to give you when it comes to negative words that are said by your PMDD partner is this self-fulfilling prophecy. I've seen this so many times where you're literally saying worst case scenario, right? You say, so we're just gonna break up. Like your partner may mention something to you and they may say like, oh, I'm not happy with this area of our relationship. and you immediately go to that catastrophizing. So maybe we should just break up. That's your response. So you're giving that self-fulfilling prophecy. You've mentioned it so many times that you're like, oh, we have this problem. We're always going to have this problem. We've been having this problem. So we should just break up. Like we're going to break up. I know we're going to break up. Like, this is ridiculous. We can't keep doing this month after month. We're going to break up. The self-fulfilling prophecy is when you actually break up. And why? Because you've literally spoken it. Remember, I told you at the beginning, life and death is in the power of the tongue. Life and death of your relationship is in the power of the tongue. So when it finally happens and you get to this point where you're like, I can't believe we actually broke up. It's like, but you've been prophesying it this whole time. You've been talking about breaking up this whole time. How is it possible that you're literally saying, I never really thought we were going to break up? But you spoke the words, and words have power. What you say matters. So every single time you say that you want to break up with your PMDD partner, every single time you say that this is not going to work, every single time you say that you're not compatible, every single time you say that maybe they would be better off with somebody else, you're speaking something as a prophecy, and a prophecy means it's going to come true. So that's why they say be careful of what you speak, because you will see what you said. And then you'll be shocked that you see what you said because you never really thought it was going to happen. There's this release of getting it out because it's in your mind, but none of your negative thoughts have power until you speak them. I want you to remember that. None of your negative words have power until you speak them. So if you're continuously speaking these negative things, then when you start to see them, then don't be surprised, because you've given life to it. What you speak, you give life to. So overall, what you say, it really impacts your cognitive functioning, your brain, your subconscious mind. And I'm telling you this as a psychotraumatologist. Your subconscious mind doesn't know the difference between what you're saying, whether you really mean it or you don't. It just hears the words and provides you a programming in your brain of what that looks like. So it doesn't know if you're lying or not. So that's why positive self-talk is so impactful, because it's reprogramming your PMDD brain into thinking the opposite of what you're thinking in PMDD. So chronic engagement in negative talk, meaning chronic means again and again and again, continuous, month after month, you're talking negatively. Month after month, your partner is talking negatively to you. It can have severe, long-lasting implications on your cognitive functioning and your mental health, because the prolonged exposure, meaning it's happening every single month at this point, of negative thoughts and languages, it's going to contribute to a decline in your brain. It's going to mess with your decision making, right? It can increase your symptoms of depression and anxiety, because your brain is so programmed to being sensitive to the negative, because you're continuously doing it. The first couple of times that you speak negatively or your partner speaks negatively, you may be in that place of being able to be resilient. But that goes into the next thing. Over time, there is this decreased resilience. What that means is the bounce back. So when you think about resilience, like, oh, you said that negatively, I'm bouncing back from it. Oh, you thought negatively, and then you talked about it and you said this and this. Oh, I'm bouncing back from it. But over time, month after month, and I've seen this with a lot of private clients, they've come to me and they're like, Dr. Rose, every single month, my partner is talking negatively about me. I feel helpless. When your PMDD partner gets to this place of helplessness, they feel powerless to change the situation. They don't know what to do. They feel like no matter what I do, my partner's always going to see me in this negative light when they go into PMDD. I'm always going to be the enemy. I'm always going to be the bad guy. I'm always going to be walking on eggshells. And they begin to develop this mentality that PMDD and this life is just going to be negative for the rest of our lives. And so that's when you can get into a lot of these three dynamics that can really just they really embody negative self-talk and negative, talk towards your partner in the relationship. Criticism, blame, and pessimism. Criticism, you're nagging your PMDD partner, you're not doing this, you need to do this better. That was the hardest for me because I was trying so hard. I was trying so hard, and I was seeing the transformation of so many of my private clients. And I'm like, this is working. The tools work. Why are they not working for us? And I was getting all of this criticism as if I was just laying out doing nothing. And then the blame, towards the end of our PMDD relationship, I was to blame for the breakup. And I had to live with being the bad guy. I remember that because of the words that were spoken to me out of anger, out of frustration, out of stress from my ex, I was the bad guy. Even though I had spent months, years even, saying, we need to work on this, we need to work on this, we need to work on these are the things. Like, I'm very self-aware, I'm very cognizant of things that were happening. And I kept saying, hey, this is going to be a problem. Like, we should really work on that. And none of it happened. But then when it ended, I was to blame. And I had to sit with that there's no rebuttal. There's nothing that I can say that is going to make me not be the bad guy in my ex-partner's mind. And so a lot of times I think that you're exhausting yourself trying to prove yourself to your PMDD partner. And I want you to let go of that. I want you to let go of exhausting yourself by trying to prove yourself to your PMDD partner. Because what they can have is a lot of pessimism. And what that means is they're thinking negatively about the relationship regardless. Meaning it doesn't matter what you say, it's not going to change their mind. So when you've been living in this realm of negative talk in your PMDD relationship, you get to a point where you're suspicious of everything, you're assuming the worst of everything, everything's negative, everybody's out to get you, there's a level of paranoia. And I used to think that I could counter that. I remember I used to think if I just counter the negative with the positive, then maybe my partner would start thinking positively. But I've told you all of the damage that thinking negatively can do. And thinking positively, choosing to switch that around, it's a choice. And we are given free will. And I can't make you think positively about your PMDD relationship. I can give you the tools, I can empower you, but if your partner is consistently or you're consistently thinking negatively, I want you to just recognize the damage that it's doing. Because maybe if you knew how it was impacting you, you would choose to lean into the positive. Because for every negative word that is spoken, and I want you to pay attention to this. For every negative word that is spoken, you need to reinforce it with 7 positive things in order for you to cognitively rewire your PMDD brain. So if you say one negative thing about your PMDD partner, you're going to have to say 7 positive things about them in order for you to reprogram your PMDD brain. 7. If you say 7 negative things about why your relationship is not going to work, it's not going to work because of this, it's not going to work because of this. Like, okay, so I'm going to need 7 reasons why it is going to work. Otherwise, you're stuck in that realm of negative talk. So I want you to take away from this the power that your words have. I know it just feels like it's not doing anything and you're just saying anything. You're saying this, you're saying that, but they have power and it shows up in your relationship. And once you get to this realm of really paying attention to what happens, you get to this point of being like, okay, what do I want to see in my PMDD relationship? How do I want my PMDD partners to be? What do I want to see? Whatever that is, speak on that. So that's the tool. You're like, okay, I know that I do this negative talk, Dr. Rose. What can I do about it? If you know that you do the negative talk, then do the opposite. When you feel like talking negatively about your partner, think about why you're with them. Why are you with them? You could be with anybody. Why them? Lean into that, because the negative self-talk will cognitively cause your brain to tell you to break up with your PMDD partner as a way of self-preservation, as a way of survival. Because if you keep talking out loud about how horrible your PMDD relationship is, your brain is going to be like, oh, this is danger. We need to get her out of here. So the next time you think about speaking those negative things about your PMDD relationship or your PMDD partner, I want you to recognize the damage that could cause. And I want you to speak positively in a way that's authentic to you, your PMDD relationship, and your PMDD partner. We got this. I hope this PMDD episode helped you and your partner in your struggles within your relationship. And if this is something that you know that you need help with and you need further support, individualized support, make sure you're going to inlovewithpmdd.com and you're getting those private sessions to really work through what you're going through in your relationship, specifically in regards to PMDD. And also, I want you to leave a 5-star written review on Apple Podcasts. What this does is it helps other PMDD sufferers and partners find this show that can help them get these free PMDD relationship tools. I remember what it felt like to not know that there were tools out there specifically for PMDD relationships. So I want to make sure that you are sharing these tools with others, share them on your social media, share them with people that you know that are also struggling in their PMDD relationships. Until next episode, this is Dr. Rose, your PMDD relationship psychotraumatologist. One more thing, I almost forgot. I now have the Fresh Start PMDD Partners Workbook. What this workbook can do is if you've had past traumatic experiences with your partner, past fights, past arguments, and they keep coming up every single month in PMDD, I created a Fresh Start Workbook so that you can deal with all of the traumatic experiences that have happened in the past in PMDD rage and all of these things so you can stop going through the same cycle again and again and again. So get that workbook. It comes with a video episode of the actual podcast that I recorded on getting a fresh start in your PMDD relationship. So you're not continuing the same cycle again and again and again. So make sure that you get that workbook. And if you need those individualized counseling sessions, you know where to go, inlovewithpmdd.com. Until next time, we got this. Love you.